Hey, Sweat Sisters. Welcome to the Pretty Girl Sweat Show, which highlights women who are balancing demanding careers with a healthy lifestyle and hurdling over personal and professional obstacles. I'm your host, Aeshia DeVore Branch, and each week I have a sister-to-sister chat with an inspiring go-getter, and listeners learn how good things come to those who sweat. If this is your first time listening, what up? You could be anywhere in the world and you're here with me, and I really appreciate that. If you love what you hear, take a second to subscribe to the podcast so you get updates every time we drop a new episode. If you got half a second, leave a rating, which will help other Sweat Sisters in need of some inspiration find our podcast. If you have a minute, please follow us across all social media platforms. We are at Pretty Girl Sweat on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and YouTube. Use the hashtag PrettyGirlSweat when sharing this episode. And if you have 5 minutes, please leave a review and let us know how we're doing. You're listening to the Pretty Girl Sweat Show. And today I'm chatting with Kirsten Potenza. With the words "be good, do good" inked along her right foot, the CEO and founder of Pound Rockout Workout leads her body, life, and business with that same mantra. Potenza founded Pound at the age of 24, designing it to be something that connected people directly with the beat, using music as an escape to empower and motivate. She believes strongly that a workout should feel as powerful and moving as playing or listening to music. Potenza aspires to change minds before bodies and created a space and environment where everyone feels welcome and accepted. Take a listen to learn how the self-proclaimed fitness rebel is shifting the fitness conversation and becoming a catalyst for change. Kirsten, welcome to the Pretty Girl Sweat Show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. I have so much to ask in so little time. So let's get this party started. I really always start with the beginning, just trying to figure out your journey and your upbringing, like whether or not you had siblings and if sports was a part of your life. So let's just start right there.
Yeah, I grew up in a very tiny little town in upstate New York, and we didn't have a ton growing up, but looking back, I always really respect my parents so much because it felt like we did. I think they did an incredible job of really filling our lives with a lot of amazing things, and I was lucky enough to have the freedom to spend most of my days outdoors, and both of my parents were entrepreneurs and probably the most creative humans I've ever met. And because of that, I spent a really good portion of my childhood doing creative things and learning from my parents. And, whether it was woodworking or learning how to shoot a bow and arrow with my dad, or painting projects or gardening with my mom, I had the privilege of exploring kind of my creative skills from a really young age. And at the same time, really without knowing it, I had two of my heroes living in the same house as me. My mom and dad were both entrepreneurs, and my dad was a contractor, and my mom was an interior designer. And I watched them, without knowing it, both grow businesses from our very own house, and at one point from my own bedroom, which is
Mhm.
where their office was.
Oh, I love it.
um
Right.
yeah,
Because
and
you had ownership in these companies, right? So, since you were
oh,
designing the
yes,
space.
yes, yes, yes. Sitting in my bed, I was like, I'll take 10%.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a wild experience, and I definitely caught the bug from a really young age. I remember I opened up a gift shop in this little outhouse in my backyard called the Forget Me Not Shop when I was probably 7 or 8, and I sold potpourri and handmade puzzles to anybody who would buy them, and made business cards and all that fun stuff. So that definitely was in my blood from a really young age.
I love that. Okay, so what did you pick up from your parents that you still use today as a businesswoman?
Oh my gosh. That's a hard and an easy question. I I mean, like I said, they literally are two of the most creative people that I've ever met, but they were also so scrappy. Like my mom would get scraps from my dad's shop, and we would use those little, like square pieces of wood to, paint a picture on. And my mom had a garden, and we would literally eat off of this garden. So really using what we had, and making the most out of it. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And if I think about how I work today, and how Pound started, and all of that, I really recognize that ability to take some very little and make it into something very big.
Hmm. It seems as if as a child you were like a little mini mogul in the making. Like, did you did you fit in with your peers, or were they like, "Girl, like we can't even get down with you. We want to play while you want to sell."
The funny thing is, looking back, a lot of the games we played were business oriented. Like, one of the things we played a lot was like town, and everybody owned their own business. And another one that we played was like, we would put on these plays and somebody was the director. And I honestly don't know where that came from, but a lot of my sisters are entrepreneurs and my cousins are entrepreneurs. So whether or not that came from our childhood or our parents, that was kind of the way that we played, and it felt very playful and childlike. And it's interesting, this kind of just clicked. I often say to people, I still feel like I'm playing to this day. And there's a lightness that I bring to being an entrepreneur and my everyday life, where it doesn't feel so serious. It feels like we're all, sitting in this playroom playing town and owning our own businesses. And I've never really thought about it that way, but I think I feel like I'm still a kid playing business to this day.
Yeah. Well, speaking of playing, let's go into sports, especially in high school. Tell us about that experience.
From a very young age, really from the age of probably 5 or 6, I was moving, whether it was outside. I began actually in ice skating and gymnastics. And in high school, I started rowing because my mom wanted me to try it. And, rowing is known to be the largest team sport in the world, because you quite literally have to move in sync with each other. All 8 people in a boat have to move a millisecond by millisecond in sync. So it is an incredible sport. And I learned a lot about myself and a lot about leadership through team sports and growing up in them. And then I, of course, went on to be a Division I athlete at UCLA, where again I probably learned more on the water than I did in most of my classes. And being on a team was always not always something that was so important to me. I didn't realize it, but it was the way in which I grew up. And it was in a team environment and understanding how to work with other people, and work towards a greater goal, whether that's winning or becoming stronger or, fine tuning our skills. There was so much education that happened within sports for me.
What about a coach? Was there any specific coach you ever had that really pushed you in ways that you had never been pushed before?
I had a coach in high school. It was a really difficult moment for me because I so badly wanted to be a rower. And my coach one day was like, "So, Kirsten, you are 5'1" and you're a little bit small. And I really think that you would be a really good coxswain," which is the essentially the coach that sits in the
Oh.
boat. And that was one of the most devastating days for me, because in my mind, I was like, A, you're telling me that I can't really be a part of a team, and and because I'm smaller and shorter and, whatnot, I have to sit at the front of this boat and kind of lose the control of being able to affect this team in a way that I wanted to. And what I later learned was that, although the role of being a coxswain is a hard one because when the team wins, it's because the team kicked butt, and when the team loses, it's usually your fault. But it was one of the more important roles that I sat in my high school and college life, and it was a difficult place to sit in, but I learned a lot there. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been pushed in that direction, and I wouldn't have, understood the value of
Right.
sitting in that
Every
role.
role is important in some way. Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, what was your
yeah.
major at UCLA?
I was a sociology major at
Aha.
UCLA.
Okay, how are you applying that degree today? Or are you saying to yourself, like, why did I?
Oh my gosh. I'm sure every human goes through this,
Yeah.
but there are days that I sit down where if you ever question your own life and the steps that, you took to get where you're at today, just look back, and if I do that, I see so many things that, led me to the place that I'm at today, and sociology was a big one. It wasn't my original major. I started taking sociology classes with this professor named Linda Van Leuven. She changed my life. I don't think she knows me or knows that, but learning sociology is the study of people.
Mhm.
And I would walk out of her classes either crying or laughing or experiencing huge breakthroughs. And she really inspired my journey to not only better understand humans, but to understand how to serve them. And she taught me a lot about empathy and love and sexuality and the importance of human connection, which is a thread that runs through Pound and everything that we do at Pound.
Mhm.
Uh, it was, you know, I probably took like 8 or 9 of her classes, and she changed my life. And uh, her classes in sociology really, affected who I am as a human today, and how I run my business and what I bring to my business as well.
Yeah, I mean, what she taught is affecting the lives of so many people, not even just you. That's really cool. That's amazing. Okay, so you get this degree, and the first thing or the first job you get out of college is what?
So I actually, my mom is going to be so upset about this because she gives me a hard time still to this day. But I actually didn't officially graduate from UCLA. I was 5 credits short,
Okay.
and it was uh, a language class that I did not complete because I was so anxious to get into the real world and have a real job. And believe me, my mom gives me a hard time about this to this day, and my coach. But I'm sure one day I'll go back and finish those last 5 credits. But I went directly into a job in the events and entertainment industry.
Okay.
Uh, and it was a really exciting job. It was a job that taught me, again, a lot about people, maybe kind of the negative side of people. It was very much in like Hollywood, and, you know, we ran, movie releases and big parties and stuff like that. Um, and I didn't, I really loved the events side of my job, but I didn't love kind of the Hollywood side of my job at that time. But it taught me a lot.
And then you took the biggest risk of your career. The biggest risk. What what was it?
I'm like, which one?
You're like, there's more than the one I'm thinking of. Okay. So
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's so many, so
okay, what's the
many.
first biggest risk you ever took?
I mean, I drove my mom crazy, but I had career ADD. I literally jumped from one career to another. I was in the fashion industry for a while, the food industry. I ran a a music venue for a while. Then right before Pound, I left a job where I was offered, ownership over a company, and it was a really big decision for me to not take it. And I immediately was like, I just need to go back to serving people. And I went into the nonprofit realm. And then that's when this idea and concept of Pound started, and where probably the biggest leap that I've ever taken in my life happened.
Mm. Now, this leap was inspired by your previous career. Tell, the audience, how you were able to, pull inspiration from something that you were doing that you just weren't in love with, but really use, kind of a similar way of entertaining people, and apply that to the fitness world.
Yeah, so I, like I said, I came from this team environment. I came from this world of movement and family, really. And when I left that realm shortly after college, I was introduced to the fitness world, the gym world. And at the time, my business partner, who left the company about 4 years ago, we met, and we really were living at opposite ends of the spectrum. I was this kind of free spirit, and she was, that person that was the calorie counter, and the fitness fanatic. And I started going to the gym, and I started to feel this really uncomfortable shift. It was a shift from how my body performed and really how it moved through the world to how it looked. And it was a lot of the language I was hearing at the gym, like your problem areas, and if you do this, you're going to burn this many calories. There was something about that felt so uncomfortable for me. And when I feel uncomfortable and I don't understand it, I oftentimes will just run in the other direction. And that's what I did. And I was, working at a music venue at the time, and I started to understand the power that music had. And I watched humans experience music on a nightly basis. And this light bulb happened for me personally when I recognized that I really sat in the seat of the student, and that if I could find a way to make working out feel as empowering and inclusive and moving as listening to and playing an instrument, or just listening to music or going to a concert, that was a workout that you'd never have to ask me to go to, that I'd never have to sit at my house and say, well, I could do it tomorrow, or I have a really busy day and it's not going to be a priority. It was a workout that I knew I could always show up to, and I felt that other humans in the world maybe felt the same way. So that perspective of being a student and not having fitness come easy to me, what was really it really, that's what really inspired me at the beginning of Pound. And I know that it was so easy for me being an athlete and being a part of a team. You have people who hold you accountable, right?
Mhm.
But I didn't have that anymore, and I needed and wanted to create that same environment again. And we did that through creating this group fitness class. It's now called Pound.
I mean, you nailed it from the very first time I tried Pound in New York City. I mean, I guess it was probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I'm like, this is genius. I'm like, I'm having so much fun. I literally feel like Sheila E. Because and I'm like, this is everything. So, say if someone out there is like, okay, this is awesome. You had this idea, but how do you launch a fitness program? Like, how does that even happen? Especially you coming from a totally different industry. How did you know what to do first?
Well, that is a very good question. And I I often think about that, and when I look back, I knew nothing about the industry. Neither of us did. And I believe that almost naive spirit is what actually carried us through the beginning of launching Pound. Not knowing much about the industry and having fresh eyes on it and a different perspective, I think is really important. And I think when somebody, no matter what industry you're trying to get into, people will probably do their due diligence and do all of the research and look at what other people are doing and what worked and what didn't. But I also think that the companies that really get off the ground because they were blinded by the light that is the magic of what they're authentically creating. And that's really what happened with Pound. It was, oh my gosh, this feels good. This is amazing. I love this experience. How do we bring this to other people? Okay, let's do a little bit of homework. Well, people are bringing it to other people by creating training programs. Okay, let's create a training program. And past that, we weren't doing much digging. We weren't doing a lot of due diligence. We were just saying, okay, these are the pieces it takes to get a program out into the world. Let's take what we know, but let's take also what's in our hearts and what's lighting us up on a daily basis and what we feel like the world needs, and infuse that into the product that we're creating. And then, of course, let's look at the business that is fitness and figure out the way that we want to do it and we want to take it to the world. And, I'm sure this has been said a million times in the past, but there's an element in business where you just have to put on your blinders and jump. A cardio drumming class sounds silly. And many people, including my own family, were like, what? That sounds ridiculous. And you're going to get people in your life who you love, who you respect, who are going to say, what are you doing? But you kind of just have to put the blinders on and jump, because if you don't, it's not going to work. If you're not 100% in, it's not going to work. No matter what you're trying to do or what industry you're in, you have to really believe in yourself and the product 110%. Because if you don't, that little bit of doubt, it will always kind of, sneak its way in, but you have to push it aside, because if you truly believe in it, it means that it matters, and it means that it's probably something that the world does need.
Was there a mentor that moved the needle for you during this process, or did you just do like some simple Google searches to figure out, okay, we need to do this today?
There's a couple people along the way that really inspired
Okay.
me. And I know that so many people have, one mentor that really influenced them. My parents are one, but it wasn't the people that were, this is hard because I don't want to take away anything from the people that influenced me in a big way from the beginning, but it really was the people who began to take the class that influenced me the most. Seeing them respond to this group fitness class was the most inspiring thing that could have happened. And it was that little kind of carrot that kept you going. It was, oh my gosh, your eyes just lit up. You experienced what I experienced, taking Pound. You were inspired enough to want to inspire other people. And that was the ripple effect that I wanted. I walk into a class where I feel included and empowered and good enough, right? That's something that was hard to find. It was hard to find for me. So many times in class, it was like I was introduced to something that was wrong with me, which felt so counterintuitive. But I wanted Pound to be this place where it's like, show up as you are. This is a workout for any age, any stage, everybody and everybody. Um, we're going to meet you exactly where you're at and who you are today, whether you feel weak or strong, happy or sad. We're here for you, and who you are right now is enough. And this workout's going to serve you in the way that you need. And seeing people experience that was the most inspiring thing. So I would say every person was a was a mentor to me in that way.
That's great. Well, from class number 1 to now, like, what has changed with the program? Like, are the ripsticks the same? Like, I wanna know, like, the first class, like, were you like, "Oh, these things are too heavy or they're too light?"
We definitely had some really interesting experiences with the ripsticks in the beginning. Everything from them being really funny shape to really funny colors. But we did get the magic sauce down pretty early. But I will say, and I believe this in my everyday life, that we've never got it right. We if you wake up one day and you're like, I got this, I got life figured out, you've got it all wrong,
Yeah.
right? So I choose to look at Pound and the business in the same way. If you wake up and we're like, oh, we got the magic sauce, it's good, we figured it all out, people are loving it, we've got it all wrong, right? If we think about it that way. So what I love about Pound is that we've evolved. Every day we're evolving. Every day we're finding new things that we can do better. We've changed our training program 6 times. A lot of the times people, when they look at their product, they're like, it's working. Why would we change it? I'm like, it's working. How can we make it better? How can we serve our people better? How can we serve our instructors, our pros, in a better and more efficient way? So that's what I love about what we do, but also what I love about our community. They are receptive of that. They are welcoming to change. We have made so many mistakes, so many bumps in the road, and we haven't been afraid of talking about them and sharing them. So I love that Pound is this, ever evolving business and program and community, and I'm proud of that. So yeah, I think it's changed a ton, and I think it'll change today, and hopefully a bunch more in the future.
Okay. And do you have any advice for emerging female business owners about how to be smart about money when you're launching a business?
Oh yes. Well, a couple things. One, in general, read Jen Sincero's How to Be a Badass at Making Money. Uh, it's a book that I read recently that really changed the way that I look at money. When you grow up without a lot of money, you you can sometimes have a negative relationship with it. Sometimes there's a lot of guilt associated with having it. And this book really helped me understand that in order to be a successful businesswoman or a human in general, I had to look at money in a different way, and I had to create a different relationship with it. Money isn't a bad thing. I am not personally driven by it, but I understand that without it, I can't run a business,
Yep.
right? That's just cold, hard facts. And without, I want to live a certain quality of life, you have to have, a certain amount of money. That's okay. And so how do we figure out a way in business to not be driven by it? Because not only are you not going to be happy at the end of the day if that's the only thing that's important, but how do we understand that it's needed in order to be successful, in order to keep a purpose driven company alive? um, and if you think about it that way, you find ways that to serve your own company and serve your community at the same time, and hopefully have a company that lives 10 to 20 years down the road.
Well, I'm typing the name of that book down right now and setting myself a calendar alert. Like, you need to purchase this or download it ASAP.
It's a
Yeah,
really
I'm
good
going to
book.
get into
Yeah.
that for sure. Thank you for that recommendation. All right. So
Of
now we're
course.
going to dig
Of
into
course.
your routines and habits just a bit. When you have a successful day, what does it look like for you?
First of all, I love how you just asked that question because it I feel like so many people say like, "What's your everyday life like?" And you're like, "Well, the good days are the bad days." And the reality is that we have good days and we have bad days, right? And it's always important to me when I have had a couple of days that don't feel as successful. I always go back and I'm like, okay, what was I doing on the days that I felt really good, right? So I love that you asked it that way. I think on the days that I feel most successful, I wake up in the morning. I always set my alarm 15 minutes before I actually want to get up because I'm not a morning person and I like to trick myself into thinking I can hit the snooze button. I will never be a morning person, but I have found ways to kind of trick myself into being one. Yeah, and that kind of gives me the permission to hit the snooze button without having to feel bad about it. I'll get up, I drink a cup of water, I feed my dog, I pet my dog. I found that just this sounds cheesy, but like looking into his eyes and giving him love first thing in the morning really kind of grounds me and makes me feel connected. Um, I meditate for 3 minutes. I do the same meditation. If I meditate, it's a Deepak meditation. If you Google 3 minute meditation, it comes up as the second
Wait,
video
YouTube?
always,
Is
at
it on
least for
YouTube?
me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then I will always kind of map out my day. I think when I have found the most success in my weeks and my days, it's on Sunday. I look at my entire schedule, I map everything out, I write down what I'm wearing. It's silly, but it's like the things that stress you out. Like, how do you get ahead of those things? What I'm wearing, what I'm going to eat at night. If I have a full schedule of meetings, how am I going to set some time apart to, take a walk on my lunch break or set some meetings with myself? So mapping is a really big part of a successful day for me. And then I usually don't eat breakfast until an hour or two after I get up. I'll have a cup of coffee, and I am lucky enough to live just a few minutes from my office. So I'll walk down and I'll usually, grab a cup of coffee or I'll take a really nice walk on the bike path. And then I like to spend a little bit time in the morning before everybody gets in to get my head right. And then I spend about 10 or 15 minutes when everybody gets in being present with my team, saying hi, welcoming them into the office, how was your weekend or how was your night last night? And then getting right into the day, which is usually packed full of way too many meetings.
Well, when you do your mapping, are you using an app for that or you have just a basic journal?
I get made fun of a lot for this, but I am so old school. I have my Outlook calendar, but I have to write everything down. And I think it's the writing it down that makes it me recognize the reality of a day and the openings in my day. And I've always been that way. I have a to-do list, a written to-do list. Writing it helps me. It makes it real. Crossing something off. I know there's science behind this and the validation that you get, but it feels so good to just say, "Yep,
Yeah.
I did that." So I'm old school when it comes to
Same.
that.
I am too. I love to write in my journal. Okay, so how's your sleep? Be honest. How many hours?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, uh, about 6 to 8 months ago, I wasn't sleeping. And when people say that sleep is one of the most important things in life, oh my gosh, I wasn't as effective at work. I wasn't as happy. I was miserable. I tried everything. Like I tried pillow spray and like earplugs and sound machines and everything. And I've personally, I think it's a very personal thing, but I've come up with a few things that I think really work, and my sleep has significantly changed. I don't go to bed till 11:30, 12 every night. But when I get home, I'll drink a kombucha, and it kind of gives me this tiny little buzz of caffeine that gets me kind of clearly through until that time, 8 or 9 at night, where I start getting really tired. Um, I my friend, who I travel with a lot, is a huge snorer. And she brought me earplugs on a recent trip. And I put those babies in, and I'm a light sleeper, and I didn't hear anything, and I slept all the way through the night. So I use earplugs every night when I sleep. Um, I literally will wake up if my dog moves. So earplugs, a little bit of like a tiny caffeine boost. And I know some people, kombucha is lighter for me, but it really made me feel nice until 8 or 9, and not like, oh my gosh, I get home and I just want to like sit on the couch and not do anything. I use a lavender pillow spray,
Hmm.
earplugs, and I have just slept so much better. And I don't wake up during the night. And
What are you averaging now? Like how many hours?
I go to bed at, let's say, 11:30, 12, and I wake up at like 6:30.
That's good. That's decent. I mean,
Yeah,
you're almost close to
yeah,
7. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot better. I'm very proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too. I'm proud. Okay, so I know you're, doing pound a lot, but outside of pound, is there another workout that is like one of your absolute favorites?
Yeah, this is something that I've really recognized lately, and that I'm okay saying out loud. Um, After, being an athlete, fitness, it I don't wake up and say, like, I'm not the person that wakes up and is like, I'm gonna get my workout in before 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. And it doesn't come easy to me, and it never has. And I think that's why Pound was created, because I needed something that would never feel like a chore, right? And that always is ever changing and feels exciting and feels effective and feels like a going to a concert instead of working out. So I know that about myself, and I've really gotten into this, I guess, a better relationship with myself. I run a business where I have to be really present and focused and on point every day, and also really creative. And I also run a fitness company. So finding that balance has been really difficult for me at times. So I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I'm not going to feel bad if I don't work out every single day of the week. I'm going to find ways that really serve me. So there's a bike path in front of my house. I got rollerblades a couple weeks ago. I love rollerblading. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go on hikes on the weekends. I'm going to take advantage of, the Tuesday night pound class that we have, and the Thursday pound class that we do at headquarters. And I'm going to serve my body and feed it what it needs, and not feel like I need to be that person that wakes up every day and works out, 6 days a week. So I probably work out 3 or 4 days a week, and sometimes it's really light, and sometimes it's a incredible crazy sweaty pound class, and sometimes I'm traveling and it's 4 classes in a day. But I've just started listening to my body and my mind, and I know when my mind says, Kirsten, you can't even breathe right now, you're anxious, stop what you're doing and go do a pound class, or go take a walk, or go, run on the bike path. We know when we need it. It's just about listening to ourselves and serving ourselves, right? When we really, really need it most. I don't think I just answered your question, but
No, you answered my question more than you could even know, because I actually had a debate yesterday with my family. We like to debate all the time. Me
I
being,
love it.
a fitness business owner, and I also have 3 daughters and they play sports. And
Oh,
the middle
I had
child,
two sisters.
you do? Well,
Yeah, and I was the middle child.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so the middle child, just like you, she got into a debate with her dad yesterday about not liking her AAU basketball practice. And he got a little upset because he was like, "Oh, you got to practice. If you want to be, great, you got to practice." And she was like, "I understand that. I practice, but I don't like it. I'm just being honest with
Yeah.
you. I don't really like it." And he's like, "Well, that
Yeah.
can't be a thing. If you're practicing, well, if you want to be an athlete, you have to like the practice part." And she's like, no, I don't, but I'll do it? So you just made that point too. It's like you don't have to love it all the time. You may,
Yeah.
there's other things that she likes to do. Like you like to do the rollerblading, she likes to go to dance class sometimes
Yeah.
instead of playing
Oh,
basketball. But yeah, it's a thing. So you answered the question.
yeah.
You totally did.
Yeah.
She'll appreciate your answer. She's probably gonna take this back to her dad and like, see, I told you. I told you.
Oh,
All right. So
I
what's
love it.
what's always in your gym bag?
Well, if I'm being totally honest, I don't have a gym bag because I live behind my office and our office has a studio in it. So I'm the person who's like, oh, it's a workout, run up, change my clothes, and come back down.
Oh yeah.
So I'm lucky enough to live that life. I feel very grateful for that. So many people are like, girl, you need to separate your life, your personal life, and your work. And I'm like, it's impossible. I'm fine. I actually got really into kind of like gym and beauty products recently, but I think if I had a gym bag, it would obviously have ripsticks in it and
Yeah.
extra underwear and clothing and a sports bra because I literally always forget my sports bra no matter what, which is horrible. But I'd probably also have, I use this really amazing, it's called Neogen Green Tea Cleansing Stick, and it looks like a glue stick.
Okay.
And you put it on your face like a glue stick, but it's amazing to travel with because it's not liquid and it's
Ooh.
incredible. So I always like to wash my face before or after a workout. And then I'd probably bring my Tata Harper cleanser or my moisturizer and some of those awesome like wipes. I don't sweat when I work out.
What?
It's
How is this possible?
it is people think it's amazing. I think it's horrible. Cuz I'm like it it feels good to sweat. I mean, I sweat a little bit, but I'm
Yeah.
just not a big sweater. I'm like I just feel like everything is being held behind my skin. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but and I also want to like look like that, like badass, like all sweaty and stuff, but it just doesn't happen for me.
Well, do you even have to, like, really care about the deodorant that you wear?
I I think I do. Yeah, I think I do. I use men's deodorant. I don't know what it's called. I used my dad's deodorant growing up, and I think that stuck with me. I
Mm.
can't remember the brand right now, but it's men's deodorant. Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right, this is all helpful information. I know so much about you that I didn't think I was gonna learn today. Okay, so what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Pound?
Oh, so many things. We're actually in the process of planning out 2020, and gosh, I don't want to give away anything. How do
A
I?
teaser,
Oh, let's
like a
say
light
this.
teaser. Okay.
Next year is going to be all about bringing our community closer, um, bringing our community new and exciting things that they may not expect, and growing our global community. So right now we have over 20,000 Pound Pros, which is what we call our instructors, and Pound is in, gosh, I believe over 74 countries now.
Oh, wow.
So our community is so large, but it feels really small. Probably goes back to what I said in the beginning, where I feel like I'm still, I don't know, it's kind of hard for me to grasp the largeness of it all. But it'll be about bringing that community closer, obviously growing it, but bringing everybody closer together as well.
Mm. And you're coming to Pretty Girl Sweat Fest
Yeah,
in
I'm so
2019.
excited.
Okay, what are you looking forward to most about this experience?
Pound is a hard group fitness program to explain to people. And I like that. So the best thing is when you get to experience it with people. And I love what you do. I love what you stand for. I love the Pretty Girl Sweat mission. So anything that is purpose driven, that has meaning and goes beyond a workout, I am not only excited about, but I know I can stand behind. So I'm so excited to make the trip and make some major noise with you. Also, one of my favorite cities in the world, so I'm excited about that as well. I'm really stoked and honored to be able to teach. I think, I said this the other day. Teaching is a privilege, and we have to remain humble in our instruction. And it's one of the reasons why Pound was created, because you've been a student, I've been a student. We all know the decision that it takes to get into a room or into a workout. And we know all the things that people are struggling with, whether they're things that we know or that we don't know. And I believe as instructors and teachers, we have to honor that decision that people made to be in front of you. So I'm really excited to do that and to meet some new people and to hopefully introduce Pound to some new peeps.
Yes. And we're going to end with you telling the audience, when you hear the words Pretty Girls Sweat, what do they mean to you?
I think that I was thinking about this the other day. I love that being a woman, a female CEO is possible. I think it's less than 10% of women who have the C-level positions in the United States. I love that as women, we now have the permission to be a lot of the things that we didn't in the past. So when I think of Pretty Girl Sweat, I think of being able to be exactly what we want and need to be as women, as leaders. And that could be everything from a high school athlete to a mom to a CEO to pretty much anything. It's sad that it's taken this long, but I love that we're living in the era that we are now, and that companies like yours exist, and that young women have a place to not only feel empowered, but to see that it's possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten. That was
Thank you. I
awesome.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I'll see you in September.
I can't wait.
And that's Kirsten. Be sure to follow her company at Pound Fit on Instagram and her personal page at Kirsten Potenza. You can also visit poundfit.com to figure out where there is a place where you can rock out and work out in your neighborhood. And be sure to check her out at Pretty Girl Sweat Fest on September 14th, where she will be getting her first ever Sweatlebrity Award. Join us on Saturday, September 14th for the 3rd annual Pretty Girl Sweat Fest Atlanta. Grab your squad for the ultimate Sweat Sisterhood Fitness Festival. Register to receive exclusive access to elite trainers. Because with heart-pumping workouts coupled with the dopest female DJs, you'll get a first-class ticket to your favorite fitness trends and hit songs. When you're not sweating it out, you can rehydrate at our sip stations, refuel in our Savor Garden filled with deliciously healthy food trucks, refresh in our Style Lounge, and shop in our vendor village. Head on over to prettygirlsweat.com/PGSF to get your tickets today before they're gone. Just one more thing before you take off. Do you want to get a short email from Pretty Girl Sweat every Monday and Friday that serves as a daily dose of all things inspiring and allows you priority access to our upcoming events? Just go to prettygirlsweat.com. That's prettygirls with an S, sweat.com. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. And if you sign up, you'll soon discover that there's no hood like sisterhood. Until next time, always remember that good things come to those who sweat.